There you go, puppy dog. Today on the Roadhouse, we are going to pick up a 5.3 LS motor for the 2015 Jeep JKU. I picked up the 4L80E transmission for it yesterday, and today just so happened I was able to find a 5.3. It's about an hour and a half away. Sometimes you gotta do shit you don't want to do. But that's the plan for today. Let's get this thing started. Here's Tahoe 2005. Got the 5.3 there, the 4L80E there, and the Jeep on 1 tons over there. It's going to be nice. Going to use the Holley Terminator X for this build. Today on the Roadhouse, the 5.3 liter LS that I picked up for the Jeep JKU on 1 tons. I think I'm going to pull it apart. Why? Because I don't want it leaking later. I don't want to have issues later. I want this thing to be pretty much wrapped up and be able to go for Oklahoma or Colorado. I pretty much want to be able to drive this thing all over the U.S. after I get it in, so I don't want to have any hiccups later in the line. And this is what everybody should do, and follow me along here, and you can skip or whatever through it as much as you want, but this is what I'm going to do to make sure that this motor is ready to go inside the Jeep JKU. Let's get it started. It's been hanging here for 2 days and it hasn't leaked, so that is one good aspect so far. Alright, what you're going to need for this is a 13 millimeter and a magnet and something to catch your oil in. Baby Bertha, always have one of these things around. I've got them in all sizes, all Berthas. Just a sample. I'll sample every time I do this. Moment of truth. Nothing so far. Round 2. Looks good here too. I also checked the bottom of the little container I'm using as well for metal shavings that the magnet might have missed, and I didn't find anything. So far, we're looking good. If you ever go to take a look at a motor that's out, let me give you this little tidbit. This is a 15/16 socket. Throw in the crankshaft bolt. This is, what do I call this one? Bertha. I have Big Bertha, Baby Bertha, and Big Bertha. And just rotate it. It rotates. Okay, to take off this bracket here on the driver's side, it's going to be alternator and stuff, and the pulley down here, we're going to use a 15 millimeter. There's another 15 millimeter right behind the power steering pump. Four bolts that take care of the air conditioner compressor, all 15 millimeter. Bolts behind it and a bolt in front of it. 3 bolts. Become good friends with your millimeters and your 10 millimeter if you haven't lost it. The coil pack bracket, 10 millimeter. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. Oh, and those were 8 millimeter to get the valve cover off. Now here's the part that's really important. You need to heat these exhaust manifold bolts up. They'll expand inside the aluminum head. That way you don't break them off. Ask me how I know. No, don't ask me. Make sure you take video of stuff like this so you can put it back where it's supposed to go. This is the passenger side front on the it's passenger side front on the coils. Now I did a video of taking off the heads and it somehow got erased. So now I'm going to show you exactly what I did, what millimeter everything was, and it'll be a really quick synopsis. Let's get it started. Okay, I've cleaned it up a little bit, but the head bolts, which are these, were 15 millimeter, and then up top here was 10 millimeter. The whole thing came out. So both sides, just cleaned it up a little bit. I didn't spend much time on it because I figured I'd have to do it again. So now what I'm going to do is going to lower it down, take off all the front water pump and everything on it, and then probably take off the oil pan. Did this chemical guy's degreaser work in my opinion? I used one whole thing of one of these things. Granted, I have 5 gallons, but I used one whole thing. Put it on with very minimal effort. Probably 4 coats of this stuff at individual times. After I took a toothbrush and messed with it some, it did get everything off that motor. All right. So it's 10 millimeter for the windage tray as well. I do not know what I'm going to do with these knock sensors yet. If I'm going to relocate them to outside the block or something, I do not know that yet. This second knock sensor was pretty nasty, and the clip was broken off on the sensor itself. So I might end up going with the aftermarket system, because then I won't have to worry about replacing this. Okay, I took it off. See down there to the cam. That one looks like it's rusted a little bit. These are the knock sensor connect points, I guess. As far as out here, take off the timing chain cover, replace the oil pump. What else am I going to do? So I come into my shop. Thank God I taped all this up. Some bird got into my shop and is trying to make a nest in here. That will piss you off. Okay, I got this package from Bruiser Conversions today. $450 motor mounts, or frame stands, whatever you want to call it, for my LS conversion or LS swap on my Jeep JKU. Okay. $425 each. I'm sorry, $225 each, and $28 shipping. $478. Wow. All right, there's a rubber mount in here, and this is steel. This goes up against the motor itself. I'll show you in a little bit on the motor. Now, I don't see any instructions at all. One's a lot longer than the other one. So we'll have to take a look at that. It's got rubber bushings in here with a steel sleeve. Cool. What I did just here is use earplugs, and then I put some tape around it to make it more seal better within it. I'm going to use high build primer, then throw some Chevy orange on it. You take one of these rods, it's long enough, and you insert it in here. And you take these little ends and put them in those little notches. Now you clean this thing up so you can put it back on where it looks a lot better. 10mm. I'm gonna cheat a little. I don't know when you need fast forward on that. That's fast. Is that fast? That's fast. That took care of that. Here's your oil pump. I got a new Melling high volume oil pump. So this is $120 something on eBay, and I went with the Melling. And let's see, is this all right? It's a little, seems a little loose. Before you start, line up those two dots. There's one here and one on the cam sprocket itself. You need it to be lined up. Take the old one off. tighten up this, as I said before. And one off. And one off the other way. Install bolts. If you've got this stuff apart, replace your belt, replace your timing chain, replace your oil pump, and just do it while you're at it. Torque it back down. And make sure everything fits before I get the torque wrench out. There we go. Gasket. Make sure you have the correct gasket here, because a lot of the problems with oil pressure is due to this gasket. you go. Reassemble. Now you want to make sure all your mating surfaces are free of any dirt, grime, rubber, old gasket material. So I'm taking a brand new razor blade and I'm running it down it. Sure you're not dumping any of your grime and gasket material inside your motor. Same thing on the front here. What I also like to do here is use some brake clean on a rag. Clean off that surface again. Okay, for the front main seal, I'm going to take it out with a seal puller. It's a performance tool number W129. I got it at O'Reilly's, I think. It's like 12, 13 bucks. How I got this in there was I used the seal puller to pull it out. I ended up having to put it back on the motor just to get the leverage, to get the seal puller to get it out. And then I took a big socket and I used a rubber mallet and very carefully went around and made sure it was going in at a even pace until it was level with the surface here. So it is flush. Be very careful with this. You do not want to replace this later. Do not torque them all the way down. Once you get them on and use your thread locker and all that type of stuff, go ahead and torque them down to spec. Take your oil pan gasket. Fits. Now, if I were you, I would take each one of these things to the wire wheel, at least on the outside of them, get them all cleaned up. You're not going to do this motor, put it all together, and then put it together with dirty parts. Let's clean these things up. I use the wire wheel on almost everything that I do. Makes everything look a lot better. Old cars gets off all the rust. New cars gets off all the grime. Just bringing them down to I have the bruiser conversion mounts on, so this should make it a little bit easier. All right, it's basically in right now. I'm not sure how long it took. Not very long. I wanted to get you guys a good close-up look at these bruiser conversion motor stands. Passenger side is really low, not much of anything. The driver's side's a lot longer. Looks like the motor at this time is cranked just a tad to the passenger side. Of course, the heads and everything have to still go back on. These things fit like a glove. I did have to put in the driver's side in first, and then it slid down to where I could push in the passenger side. The next video will have me taking care of the torque converter, the spacer for the torque converter, the flywheel. Also going to be mating the 4L80 to the 5.3 LS. The LS is a 2005. The transmission is a 1995 4L80E. I've got a lot of other videos on this Jeep, the whole progress from it sitting on the ground to where it's at right now. Go ahead and take a look at those other videos. This thing has taken a lot of progress. It's got 1-ton axles on it. This thing will be a beast once it's ready to roll. Thank you for watching, subscribing, and commenting down below. Tell me what you think I should be doing with this Jeep. Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you ride her hard, don't put her away wet.